Hello, everyone. I know you all are getting ready for your finals and finishing up assignments and things this semester. So we're really excited that you took the time to join us for Study Tech Tools. Hopefully this will give you some resources, some tools, maybe that you haven't tried before or some that you have experience using that can help you study more effectively and more efficiently. So my name is Andrea Caraway. I am the Online Student Experience Manager for the Division of Student Affairs. I also have Astrid here with me, so I'm going to let Astrid introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Astrid Quiroga, and I'm the Graduate Assistant for the Online Student Experience Department. And we are so glad you are here in our Study Tech Tools session. So thank you for really making the time to be here, as Andrea said. And we wish you the best on your finals. Go for it. We're really, really close to the finish line of this semester, so we're rooting for you.
Awesome. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We want this to be interactive. So if you have recommendations or other tools, we'll talk about some categories of tools in a second. But if you have things that you're using, please feel free to drop them in the chat. And then if we have a little bit of time afterwards and you want to do like a little bit more of a deep dive into any of these tools, we can totally do that as well. So just to get us started and see who all is in the room, if we can do some quick introductions. And so if you would just put your name, your classification, so whether you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, or graduate student, your major, and then just one general study tip. It doesn't have to be related to tech tools or anything like that, just whatever tip that you have to help other students to study. Again, we want y'all to be a part of this presentation, and we want to make sure that you all are able to help each other because we're all a community. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to get that done. And while you're doing that, we are going to keep moving forward in our presentation. And so I think using technology is a really great way to enhance your study. You all have so many tools at your fingertips, but also I understand that can be overwhelming. There's a lot of tools to choose from, a lot of different ways you can do that. And so on one hand, although you have all these tools that you can use to help you create, a better study environment, help you kind of retain the information that you're learning, I also understand that it can be overwhelming, and sometimes we are trying to use too many tools and things like that. And so I think for every person, what you use is going to be personal, and you're going to have to find what works best for you. But whether we're talking digital note taking, whether we're talking collaborating using technology, it's likely that all of you will have a suite of tools, a kind of a group of things that you enjoy using that can help you elevate your studies and excel in your coursework, which is what we want for you. Today, we're going to talk about kind of 4 categories of tech tools for study. And so we'll talk a little bit about digital note-taking and organization. We'll talk about productivity apps and tools. We'll talk about things specifically for research, writing, and citations. And then we have kind of more of a general category of study tools. Maybe they don't quite fit into the other 3 categories, but things really focused on helping you kind of retain information, maybe being able to quiz yourself and that type of thing. So those are the types of tools that we'll introduce you to. There's more than one tool in each of these categories. So again, our hope is to introduce you to some of these things. Some of these tools do the same thing, and so you may have a preference of using one over the other. Our hope is just to introduce them to you, and hopefully you get a chance to try some out and you can figure out what works for you. So the first type of tools I want to talk about are digital notes. And I love digital note taking because I take digital notes. Me specifically, I also like the feeling of being able to write. So I feel like I take a lot of my digital notes on my iPad. But again, everyone is going to have different things that work for them. Digital notes are beneficial though, because you're able to create searchable notes. You're also able to more easily share notes. So if you're working in a group project, or if you have a study group for one of your classes and things like that, or maybe you have a friend who was out sick and they're asking if they can borrow your notes. Digital notes makes it easy to share those things. It also helps you to study anywhere. And so for me, I feel like one of the biggest benefits for me of digital notes is that, if I'm somewhere and maybe I'm waiting in line to renew my driver's license or something, and I've picked my number and I'm just having a seat, I can pull up, my digital notes, even if I don't have, a notebook or things like that, and still be able to review those in those little pockets of time where I kind of just find myself sitting and waiting. I think it's also great because it helps you to streamline your study materials and you don't worry about losing a piece of paper. I don't know about you all, but I am the worst with keeping up with actual physical paper things. And so I'm always hesitant that I will not be able to find my notes. And so I that's another reason why I really prefer digital notes. And so there's a couple of different apps to choose from. As a student at UNT, you all have a Microsoft account. And so if you want to stick with the Microsoft platform, you can use OneNote. It's kind of set up as like a digital notebook, so you can create multiple tabs in your notebook. You can also incorporate things from your other Microsoft apps really easily in OneNote. So I think that's another benefit of OneNote, and that if I want to reference a Word document or a spreadsheet or something like that, I'm really easily able to do that because they all kind of work together. Um, like I mentioned earlier, I take a lot of notes on my iPad, and it's just because writing things out helps me think. And so I personally use GoodNotes, just because I'm able to write out my notes, but the notes, even though they're handwritten, they're still searchable. I can still find what I need. Some other options for folks, Evernote is another popular note taking app where people can embed media. You can add your notes. It works across a variety of different types of devices. Obsidian, I think, is one that people haven't heard much of unless they are doing research, and usually graduate level research. And so I don't know if any of you have ever heard of a Zettelkasten or that note taking method, but it's about kind of taking a really small notes and then being able to connect them to other notes. And so Obsidian is cool in that it almost, when I see it, it makes me think that I can see a web of my brain and I can see how different notes reference and connect to other notes and things like that. It also has some really cool plugins. It's probably, I would say, there's a little bit of a learning curve, I think, to using Obsidian. And so I think for a lot of undergraduate students, I maybe don't see as much of a use for it, but I think for people doing graduate level research, it can be a really great tool. And the other thing is that it has plugins that would connect it to a lot of reference management systems that we'll talk about later. And then another one that I don't really use much, but I know is very popular amongst college students is Notion. I know people are able to set up all kinds of crazy dashboards and put their schedules in there and do a little bit of project management and break their big ticket items, their big projects up into smaller pieces. I've also seen people using Notion for habit tracking and things like that. So I will a option for you all as well if you're looking at digital note platforms. I'm sure that there are lots of other things that people are using. For some people, and I know one thing that I did when I was an undergraduate, I didn't necessarily take digital notes on the onset. I usually wrote my notes down, but I did have a habit of, like, if we finished a unit or a chapter or something like that in my classes, I would kind of distill my handwritten notes and just type them up in a Word document back then, just to kind of consolidate my notes, reorganize them, and things like that. And so that might be something that works well for you all as well.
And now it's my turn to introduce you to research writing and citations. Probably some of you already know these tools, but I just want you to share these resources in case you don't know them. And basically, these are tools that can help you to, as described on the slide, to store, manage, and retrieve information easily for your research. And the great thing about these tools is that they're all free of access for you. RedWorks is quite special. Typically, you will pay to access this tool, but we have a partnership with UNT, and you can use your login credentials following specific steps, of course, to access this tool. And it will help you greatly in this process of organizing the content you find for your research. And I think as a graduate student, I can say that it's one of the most challenging things. It's not the most challenging, but I find myself a lot of times like saving links and contents and putting those in a Word document or in a Node section on my computer. And then when I need to go back to them, I don't know exactly where I put that content. So these tools are created to help you get organized, speed up the process, or retrieving the information that you find for your research. And basically, it will give you also the opportunity to format correctly your citations. So from all of these, I will say Scriber and Grammarly citation are the most basic, but they will give you a great foundation on how to organize the citations in the correct formatting. These are free of access. You don't need to download an external application. You can either do it directly from the website, or you can create an account and access that information through it. Zotero and Mendeley, they pretty much provide the same services. Mendeley recently allowed also, it was limited to Microsoft, but now you can do it through macOS and Linux. So those are great resources. So there is a tool that will help you in the process, same, organizing and storing references. And for that, you can download the app. You go through your Google search or whichever is your searching platform, search for those, download the application, and you can create libraries through it and maintain all your information in one place and easy to access. And that's the same case for Mendeley. Andrea, would you like to expand in any of these tools?
Great job. And thanks for sharing for that. Again, I would say that Zotero, Mendeley, Research Rabbit, again, really probably geared towards people doing graduate level research. But honestly, even as undergraduates, I didn't start using Zotero till I was in graduate school, and I wish I would have used it as an undergrad because it would have made doing my citations and reference pages and things like that for my papers just a little bit easier because they have plugins to Word, like Astrid mentioned. And so as you're writing, you can pull citations directly from your library. A couple of things that I want to highlight specifically with Mendeley and Research Rabbit, I think they do a really good job of helping you find other articles, other journals, and things like that for your research. And so once you start using Mendeley and you start adding things to your library in Mendeley, it will start to give you recommendations of other research that you might be interested in. And so that's another thing that can be helpful. And Research Rabbit has an interesting feature that if you upload a paper or put a source there, it links it to other papers that reference it. And so if you have a journal article on online student learning, maybe you have that article there, and then you want to see what other papers or research have cited this article that you've uploaded, it will actually list all of those things for you. It will help you pull other things that the authors have written. And so I find that that's a really cool feature that I like. I especially like Zotero because Zotero also plugs into Obsidian. And so since I use both tools, it's very nice that I can easily import notes from Zotero into Obsidian that has like all of my other notes, whether they were notes from class or just my thoughts or things like that. I don't have a lot of experience with RefWorks, and so that may be one to go kind of try out and explore and things like that. As we were preparing for this presentation, that's how I discovered that our institution provides RefWorks, which is another citation or reference management program. But that's one that I haven't worked with, and so I don't know as much about RefWorks. But thanks,
Yeah.
Astrid.
No, it's my pleasure. I'm on the same page with you with RefWorks, but I found if people just go Google UNT RefWorks, it will take you to the full page through the UNT libraries, and they have a ton of resources on how to register and to access their features. And the great thing about it is that even if you graduate, you can access as an alumni, like until UNT has a partnership with RefWorks. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Mhm.
Another thing that I think is great to bring up is the coolest thing that I think about technology is that you have access to resources from all over the world. And so most colleges have writing resources available online. So for UNT specifically, there are several library guides that are geared towards writing. And so if you go to the UNT library website and you check out the LibGuides, there is one that's about citations and references and like gives you more information about the different formats that your instructors might ask that your writing be in, the different formats, and it will tell you how to cite them correctly, how to format them correctly, and things like that. And then there's another guide that's specifically geared towards scholarly writing. Again, that one may be a little bit more geared towards students doing graduate level research. But again, great resources. The UNT Writing Lab is another great resource, and on their website, they have some instructions, some guides, and things to help you out. But I even though we're here and we're at UNT, I want to, and I usually don't bring up other institutions, but I will say that Purdue's Online Writing Lab is a resource honestly used by students at lots of different institutions and have been for a while. And so they've got some great resources and they've been doing it for a long time. It has been several years since I was an undergrad. And honestly, I used the Purdue online writing lab to help me out as an undergraduate student, and that's like 15, 20 years ago. And so I think they're kind of known for having excellent resources. And even though we don't really have it here specifically in the PowerPoint, I think that's another thing that throughout my academic career is that if I maybe didn't understand a concept or something like that in my classes, I honestly would just hop over to YouTube and put the topic there because a lot of institutions, a lot of professors, a lot of researchers um, have online versions of their class or a recording of their class or a recording of their lectures and things like that. And so even if maybe I didn't understand it in my class, I could still go and see how other professors, other lecturers were teaching the material. And sometimes that would help me grasp it a little bit better. All right, other types of apps. So productivity apps and tools. Honestly, I think as a college student, you have a lot of things to manage, whether it is your academic work. A lot of you also work either full-time or part-time jobs if you're keeping up with your student orgs and just other commitments and things like that. I find that keeping track of what I need to do is really important for me to be successful. And so productivity apps help you to manage your task and your workflow. I find them really helpful to break projects up into smaller, manageable tasks and to kind of give myself deadlines or keep track of deadlines that I have for other people. And so, again, as a UNT student, you've got the Microsoft tools. And so you can use Microsoft Planner to create projects and then break up those projects into specific tasks and give yourself deadlines so that you can make sure you're not waiting to until the last minute to do all of the parts of a project. To-do list is another popular productivity app. Me personally, I love ClickUp. I absolutely love ClickUp. ClickUp has a free version, but they also have paid tiers as well. Again, you're going to have to find what works for you. Different people like different tools for different reasons. And so feel free to like explore and try out different tools until you find what's the right fit for you. The other thing that I think is important that we didn't necessarily put them in here because I feel like they're tools that mostly everyone uses, but also utilizing your calendar or your to-do list like within your calendar app to help you out. So whether it's like the reminders app on your phone, whether you're using your Outlook calendar through your UNT account, if you like the Google Calendar and the Google to-do list, whatever it is, I think just having something that helps you keep track of what you need to do. Now, different people will need different levels of complexity for that. For some people, just a simple to-do list is all they need, and they just need to be able to write everything down and check things off. But once people get to like managing lots of different projects, or maybe they're collaborating with people, sometimes a project management software might help with that productivity and collaboration as you're planning how you're going to do your work. And then still talking about productivity, I wanted to talk a little bit about body doubling. And so this is a technique where two or more people are working together, but on their individual tasks. So they're not necessarily working on the same thing. They may not even be talking to each other, but it's kind of this idea of, I'm not in this by myself. And so it's like if you and your friend both went to a coffee shop to study, but you're studying two completely different things, just having someone there can help boost your focus and motivation. And this happens in person or virtually. And I think one really cool thing that we're starting to see is that there are apps specifically designed for this, both for body doubling in terms of like people doing it in their professional world. So a lot of freelancers, a lot of people who work from home might use a body doubling app that's geared towards professionals, but there are some that are geared specifically towards students. And so we've listed a couple here: Study Together, Study Stream, and Studyverse. They're all very similar. I personally have used Study Together, and I think it's cool because you can kind of set up your online study environment. So it gives you both a personal room that no one else is in, and if there's like a lo-fi YouTube video you can put in there for each of your study sessions. You can set your goals and track your progress. And so see what it is that you're hoping to accomplish in a study session. If you like background noise, like the sound of a fireplace or the sound of rain, like you can customize all of that, which I think is cool. But then they also have body doubling rooms or study rooms. And so on the Study Together app, maybe you just want to log in and you just need to be in a study room, and seeing someone else on the screen helps you feel more accountable. You can do that. Or if you have a group of friends that you want to do that, you can set up a private room and set up a password and just give it to the people that you want. And so I think it's really cool. I think it creates kind of a community around studying. And it's also fun because you earn points and there's a leaderboard and all of that great stuff for you as you are working on your academic work. And so that's something that's really cool as well. We've started doing a couple of body doubling sessions. In fact, we've got one coming up this week for finals week. And so Thursday, it should be on the UNT calendar, but we've got a virtual study session. And so essentially that'll be a body doubling session where lots of people will be coming on for 2 hours. I believe it's from 4 to 6. And you can just come study. We might share our goals at the beginning of the session, and then we'll take a break halfway through. But for the most part, you're just logged in with other people studying so that you are accountable. Astrid, you got anything else?
No, I certainly recommend you to join us for for that session. I have done it a few times and I found it super helpful because it helped me to stay focused just by knowing that there are other people also working in their own things. So I'm not tempted to do things that are not that important at the moment. And so, yes, please check out our social media channels and you can find more details about these events that we have for this week.
Great. And finally, we've got some other just kind of general study tools that can help you review and recall information. So whether it's something that'll help create a study guide or flashcards from your course materials. Astrid, do you want to tag team and talk a little bit about Quizlet, and then I can talk about some of the other things that we've got listed here?
Yes. So Quizlet, you will have free access to this tool as well. You can just Google it and check the information there. But basically, they have different features, including flashcards that on different topics, all kinds of topics that you can imagine, and they're really helpful to help you practice for your test, for a presentation, just to get general knowledge about a specific topic. So yeah, that's all what I can say about Quizlet, unless you have something else to add, Andrea.
No, that's perfect. And so another really cool one that I'd like to talk about is Study Fetch. It's actually an AI assistant tool. And so what you're able to do is you can upload your course materials. So any notes that you've taken, if you have PowerPoint presentations, YouTube videos, whatever it is that you have around your coursework, you can use all of that to create a study set. And what Study Fetch will actually do is it will create interactive quizzes for you. It will ask you questions. It also has a lecture mode, which I think is fascinating, where if you are in class, you can actually set it to record your lecture, but then it also gives recommendations of questions you can ask to be engaged in class and things like that. This is a new tool that I found out about. I actually found out about it at a conference that I was at about a month ago, and I saw people using it in the conference sessions to kind of record the sessions that they were in, and I thought it was really, really cool. And so I've played around with it a little bit myself. And they have a free version, and I believe the free version allows you to create 3 study sets. And then if you want to use more or use it more and things like that, they have different account levels. Brainscape and I Do Recall are similar to Quizlet. They're just a couple of other options as well, where it can create flashcards for you, and it can also create quizzes and things like that. I think you might even be able to do study guides and things like that, but they really are there to help you learn the material. A pro tip is to check and see if your textbook has a companion site. And so sometimes your instructors may not use the companion site that goes with their textbook, but that it's still a tool that you have access to. And so sometimes you can find like different sets of PowerPoints that are maybe different from your instructors. Sometimes they'll have study guides, practice quizzes, things that will help with vocabulary and things like that as well. Right. Um, I feel like I would not be doing just my due diligence if I didn't bring this up. But academic integrity is really important. And so even though you all have a lot of tools available to you, whether it's AI, whether it's places where people are sharing notes and things like that, um, yes, you're able to easily gather data and collaborate. However, it's your responsibility to use them in a way that's ethical, in a way that maintains academic integrity. And so it's important to always credit original sources. Adhere to ethical guidelines when you're using AI tools, especially if you're using them on assignments. I think that it's a little bit different if you're just using it as a tool to study, to maybe prepare for an exam or something like that, and you're wanting to use these types of tools to help quiz you on information. But if you're using them in your writing for your homework, assignments, and things like that, it's important that you understand what your professor's expectations are in terms of using AI in your coursework. And all of our professors and instructors have different classroom policies and expectations around that. And so it's important that you do your part to know what those expectations are and that you follow them. Academic integrity is important. I think that's how we create a great learning environment where people continue to learn. The whole point of you being a student is that you learn this information. And so if we cut corners or we do things in a way where it's not helping us to actually learn the information, then you're not doing yourself justice. By kind of taking a shortcut in terms of your academic responsibilities. So just some pro tips, like as you're thinking about using technology to assist with your studies, use tools that work together to minimize friction. And so what do I mean by that? If you can use tools that work together that prevent you from entering things or typing things up more than once, or that you're able to input information from one system into another, that's really going to help you, one, not lose any of your notes or things like that in the process, and kind of create a seamless experience for you. I think it's always important, whether you're using technology or not, to set aside time and review your notes. If you are like I was as an undergrad and you took your notes on paper and then you typed them up, just make sure that you set aside time to do that. So even if you're handwriting notes, but you want to import them into your digital note system, set the time to do that. That way you can be consistent with making sure that everything gets uploaded. Regularly back up your data, back up your data. Especially for those of you, again, that are doing graduate level research, and things like that. You never know when you're going to go back and you're going to want to find something, that you used maybe a couple of years ago or something like that. And so regularly back up your data so that you always have it, that you're not losing things. Organize your digital workspace. And so if you need to create folders, or tags and things like that to more easily find things, not only in these platforms, but also just on your computer or laptop. That way you are able to have those things organized. Me personally, I had a folder for every semester, and then in that folder, I had a folder for every class, and I kind of kept all of my digital things there. Another great tip, especially as you are maybe typing up things directly into Canvas. I always did them in a Word first, so that if something happened and like I hit submit and it just disappeared and didn't go through, that I could just copy and paste it from Word again back into the learning management system. But then it kind of made sure that I always had my own copy. And then if you are using AI tools, know that sometimes they're not always right. So if you're using it ethically, if you're using it responsibly, you're just using it to create like a study guide for yourself to use to prepare for an exam. Make sure you're still reviewing the content that you get back so that you can make sure that it's accurate. So hopefully these things help you figure out how you can use your study tech tools to study more effectively, and efficiently. And good luck on your finals. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll hang out for a little bit if you have questions, but here's my contact information. If you have more questions about study tech tools, or if you just need any other assistance kind of navigating your experience as an online student. So thank you so much for being here. Reach out to us if you need anything else. Have a good one.
Thank you for being here. We also want to invite you to check out our social media channels. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and just type in UNT Online Student Experience and you will find us. Thank you.